as we all say, we are all trying to make the African trade work. But the how is what we are really trying to focus on, and being very practical and just making sure that the initiatives that we're coming up with are initiatives that are able to give the common MSME access to the African market. You mentioned MSMEs, and I love talking things in numbers. If you're to put things into percentage, maybe you could give us the figures for either Kenya or across Africa. What is the percentage we are looking at within the MSME and SME space? So let me first give you some interesting statistics. The individuals who participate a lot in cross-border trade are actually youth and women, taking up almost 75 to 80% of the cross-border traders. And most of these guys are basically MSMEs. Ideally, when you talk about inter-Africa trade, you can never talk about that without really focusing on the MSME space. I look at an MSME as, most of them, yes, are startups. Most of them are people who understand what they want to sell, where they want to go and sell to. But really, the facilitation is what is required to give them access to a different market base. And basically, that's what a basic SME actually just wants to get. We have the biggest youth population in the world. Resources are so many here in Africa. We are talking about natural resources, but we are also looking at being, like I mentioned at the intro, is biggest trading bloc. Yet this opportunity is not being fully utilized and maximized. Now, big conversation here has been AGOA. For the last few weeks, it gave us duty-free access, but also made us very dependent on one market only, and that's the US. Now it's gone, and the WTO DG did say that Africa must look inward. Now I want to understand from your vantage point, how does the free trade area within Africa reframe Africa's trade opportunities that AGOA has ended? Now look at this. AGOA came with 6,000 trade lines. And if you look at real impact that AGOA has created versus what intra-Africa trade has in terms of capacity, out of the 6,000 trade lines, we consumed very few, actually in Kenya in particular. And I still believe that as much as we are all running around to get the renewal of the AGOA up and running, AGOA was never a market. It will never be a market. Our market is seated just next door. We have Tanzania, who is our market. Uganda is our market. Nigeria is our market. And I feel that it's a market that is easy to tackle compared to even the American market. But as we all say, we take too long as Africans to be able to implement solutions to our own problems in the first place. Correct. Before we run to renew the AGOA, I think the conversation should be more or less of how can we increase the trade volume that is between Kenya and Tanzania, Kenya and Uganda. How can we make sure that we increase the trade volumes in the EAC market? Because ideally, these are markets, one that has well-structured customs in terms of maturity-wise. The tariff lines are well-defined. The things to do with the requirements with the Bureau of Standards are quite well standardized within the region. And I believe we should be increasing more of investment in this particular space because the population that we are talking about, the 1.3 billion, or talk about the EAC market that has millions of population, is still something we can dominate and we can take advantage of. And if we can increase the volumes, we won't be able to have the shocks that we are all saying that AGOA is going to live in the market because the demand is actually there. It's us to reconfigure our thinking around it and target the market that we are actually having just next to us before we figure out a way to unlock the AGOA, that's if it's going to be unlocked. I've seen discourse around now looking east, China. If it doesn't work out and AGOA is not renewed or extended, there's a possibility that now would try and establish almost a similar kind of agreement with China, which in itself, we are trading a lot with China. It's a market that's very open to not only Kenya, but to Africa. But there's a risk in that because now we are just shifting gears because depending on where the geopolitics of the world move towards, then would more or less maybe find ourselves in a similar situation in future. Why do you think as a continent we keep looking outside of what it is we have as Africa? Why don't we believe in our potential? And I'll also just angle something that came out during the UN General Assembly. A lot of African leaders almost felt like they were begging, instead of actually showing up as leaders to say, this is what we have to offer the world, and we are going to work amongst ourselves to make sure that we are thriving. Point is, Africa is always looking outside. What do you think our biggest problem is? Why don't we have confidence in the things that we have to offer to ourselves and in turn to the rest of the world?
I think it all boils down from where we've come from. We've come from a generation that was being ruled by colonial masters. And we always believe that everything good comes from the West or maybe comes from the East. We've always looked from the outside as where the big value proposition comes from. But with the new generation that is coming in, talk about the young guys, the young innovators who are coming up, they're really changing and they're changing the conversation drastically and swiftly. In this case, what I'm just trying to say is that for our seniors who've been there, they've done their best. They've done what they could be able to do at that particular time.
Correct.
But as we go on, our young guys are coming up to fill that particular space. And we're seeing a lot of innovation coming in to the continent. And innovation that is being built by Africans for African challenges. The only thing we're just trying to plea with everyone is, are you able to support your own innovation? Because those innovations are the ones that are going to open up your market. I'll give you an example. AfCFTA policy work has been done. But the people who are doing the policy work may not be the people who are going to drive the trade towards the future.
Correct.
I normally use this word that we already have a lot of work that is being done by our seniors or our current leaders. But the people to take up that mantle and deliver is a youthful population that the continent is blessed with in the first place. Because at the end of the day, the young people will need to bring their innovation on how to integrate the continent. They'll need to bring in their speed, their agility, their flexibility. Because even, culturally, within the African context, our fathers or our grandfathers never went for war. They always took young, strong men
Correct.
To go and fight.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to say is that our young people need to be able to take up that mantle and take the AfCFTA to the next level. But at the same time, our seniors need to be able to give a chance to these young people and trust that they have the capability, they are strong enough. They might not have all the knowledge, but what they have is enough to be able to take the continental conversation to the other level.
I like that we've brought it back home to the young minds that are innovating and really creating all of these amazing things that can be integrated to what we already have, but also creating opportunities. And I want to go back to what you've managed to do, which is with Real Sources Africa, which is playing a key role in making the AfCFTA practical and a reality, again, not just for Kenya, but for other African countries. Now, and we're moving from policy to paper, actually practical solutions, which is where I feel Africa struggles a lot. It's how quick are we to execute some of these things. I would want you maybe to walk us through how Real Sources Africa is helping businesses trade and look at it from a very efficient angle, whether it's with financing, logistics, or market access, which is one of the things that a lot of people will say, hey, I have goods, but I don't have market access, or the barriers to entry are just a bit too extreme for me to navigate.
So from a Real Sources standpoint, we got into this space with a lot of assumptions initially. Because we all got in the space knowing that the biggest challenge in the intra-Africa trade space is logistics. And this was one of the things that had been propelled for the longest time, that movement of goods is one of the biggest hurdles. But rarely did we sit down to criticize, why is logistics the barrier? Yes, it is the barrier, but why is it a barrier? At the same time, other people will come and say that financing is a big concern, that most SMEs lack proper financial infrastructure to support. But we tend not to ask ourselves, why do we have that challenge in the first place? Now, what we came to realize is that one of the biggest hurdle, or the major hurdle, is demand and supply. Because at the end of the day, for a financial institution to put up money into a transaction, they have to be guaranteed on how they're going to get repayments out of it.
Correct.
So as much as if there is demand for a product and the payment terms are well defined, then the supply can be financed because there's a clear repayment cycle. If I am a transporter and you guarantee me consistency of cargo, I'll be able to cut down on my cost of logistics because I have consistency. Now, at the same time, if there is anything to go around the capacity building campaigns that are being geared upon, but what is the output? We realize that the biggest challenge is we first have to sort out the issue of demand, then the rest of the cycle can be taken care of, which makes one of our major pillar at resources, which is market development and demand creation. We are keen to look for products that are in demand within the African markets, or to even just go and meet these distributors and get to understand, or off-takers, what do you want? We tend not to ask ourselves, what does DRC need for us to manufacture to take to DRC? But sometimes we end up getting to DRC with products that really are not required by them.
Correct.
Because they have different tastes, different preferences. Due to the market trends, there are some products that we might not be competitive, but there are others we may be competitive enough by different factors being brought in together. Now, other than creating demand is being able to structure the logistics, the aggregation, the consolidation. Because once now you have the demand, now let's figure out a way to supply.
Correct.
Now, due to availability of demand, then it's easy to structure logistics, or even get to contractual engagements to cut down the cost of shipping as long as you're able to guarantee consistency.
Correct.
But now look at this, Fellaris. Without demand being well defined, how will you invest in a logistical infrastructure that doesn't have an output of supply to that particular place? Because today you went to Kenya Airways and told Kenya Airways, can you put up a flight to a certain destination because we want to target that particular market? But where is the volume?
It's flying blind.
Because if they were to go to that particular market without volume, it is an actual ultimate loss that they're going to be making. Now, once you sort out the demand and you've now sorted out the logistical aspect, now let's bring a financier to increase the volume. Because one, there's already well-defined demand, the logistical infrastructure to make sure delivery is actually there. Now, we can increase the capacity by increasing resources onto already established supply and demand kind of chain. But now once you bring financing into the equation, we're able to increase our volume to support. Now to bring other people to the equation, now you bring capacity building campaigns and exercises to increase the participants onto the trade ecosystem itself, because we already have a chain that is what? Is working.
Is working, yeah.
And also the investment that we're making onto these capacity building campaigns, it's investment that is geared towards an output, because we already have a chain that is working. So we are supporting our MSMEs to get into this wagon that is already working. So we're equipping them with skills, either financial literacy skills, either export readiness skills, to be able to get to this particular bandwidth.
Yeah.
But finally, digital is an enabler. I tend to look at digital as more or less not the main business. And I live with something. If digital is the infrastructure that will make Africa great, why do we have China squares being set up in each and every town in Kenya? If digital is a main integrator,
why
is it that Walmart will be setting up its first base in South Africa by the end of the year, and we're still saying e-commerce is the big,
it's
this
a game
big
changer.
Game changer.
Yeah.
But I feel e-commerce is an enabler of something.
Correct.
So we need to have the actual infrastructure that will support the distribution, the aggregation. Then we bring e-commerce as an enabler, for this infrastructure that is there. But we cannot start from digital working back to infrastructure.
It's impossible.
The cost is going to be extremely high. It is not practical, it's not doable. And these are kind of conversations that we're trying to do now practically as real sources. And one of the things that we've done to address some of these issues, number one, we just launched a platform in partnership with Foreign Affairs called the Biashara Link Portal.
Okay.
The Biashara Link Portal is looking at converting our embassies to become centers of economic diplomacy. Today, if you walk into an embassy and you say you're looking for tea from Kenya, you're told to write a letter, you're told to give a company profile, it is sent to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. For Foreign Affairs, it is sent to trade. From trade, it is sent to the Chamber of Commerce. Come on, the only thing you're looking for is tea. And basically, why can't we just cut down this process entirely be able to bring in a database of already active exporters because it's still available. And being able to send those inquiries and blast those inquiries coming in directly to the already active importers and exporters for them to start bidding. Because we have no business being gatekeepers of transactions where else we're supposed to serve our people. At the same time, the Biashara Link portal has a feature of setting up and booking appointments with our trade officers and our ambassadors out there. If today I was to tell you, you want to talk to the ambassador in China, you start struggling. Where do I get his number from?
Where am I even going to get the lead, the contact, write a letter? It's not responded to. And
maybe the only thing you just want to ask is, can I get a supplier of X product or can I get a financier to support this particular product? So why don't you just go on into the Biashara Link portal, book a slot, see the availability of their timings, make a booking, give a description of what you want to discuss with them about, they acknowledge your meeting, have a 15-20 minute session. Simplicity. Now, you see, our embassies are centers of economic diplomacy. You can imagine it's like you have a representation of your whole country in a different country, but we are not optimizing that to our trade aspect. And I acknowledge the support that the leadership of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, led by the PA Singwai, on some of the key initiatives he's focusing on to convert our embassies to be our centers for economic diplomacy. That's the kind of war that right now we are fighting. Now, secondly, we have the deal rooms. Our e-commerce needs to be redefined. Can you imagine right now we are building e-commerce platforms that made Jack Ma or Alibaba work, I think 10 years ago, and we are going there right now. Forgetting that we have AI algorithms that can cut down the entire process. We cannot attack trade by following footsteps of people who tried something 10 years ago.
Correct.
I think we have to start from now. What is working now?
What is working now, leading to the future.
Leading to the future. And I believe that AI is a game changer. And we have been able to build platforms like, deal rooms, because we actually call the deal house, a platform to support negotiations, to support contracting and execution of trade inquiries. We are not focused about inquiries that are, creating inquiries. We are more focused on executing the already existing inquiries. Because see, inquiries are everywhere. I can call you today and tell you, do you have tea? You'll tell me, okay. No, but if that inquiry does not mature from I asking, do you have tea, to I delivering tea and getting paid for it, that is where the conversation is.
And a lot of conversations stall at that point.
That's where most of the things stall. But that is the most important aspect of the conversation. If we're able to figure out a way to bring those inquiries into a deal room for negotiation, contracting, payments and execution, that is a game changer. That is where the actual job is. And I feel that is where most of us do actually fall into, most transactions fall in the cracks. But these are the conversations that Real Sources is trying to pursue and say that for us to make this work, we have to focus, one, on how can we convert our embassies to centers of economic diplomacies. Number two, how can we have executions or have a pipeline of executable inquiries that touch on commodities, services, financing, and investments. And finally, we are saying, how can we build sustainability within the markets? And sustainability, I mean consistency in supply. And we are busy trying to say that we need to build physical infrastructure, or even if not building, prepare or lease. But have something already existing that can act as a distribution and aggregation center that will provide that MSME who is a retailer of a product in DRC. They don't have to wait to ship a whole container load or talk about consolidation and aggregation. We're able to ship in bulk, have them seated in a bonded facility, and I can come and buy my 100 pieces of the value I have capacity to. But I can buy every day. So I can rotate my liquidity and my working capital every day. And that is the way I believe we will be able to make this AfCFTA conversation very practical. And through those aggregation distribution hubs, now we're able to say that the AfCFTA is working because I have cleared my products using the AfCFTA certificate of origin. And that is why I'm able to be more competitive within the market. But the competitiveness will not only be brought in by a certificate. We'll have to look at the costs of delivery, the cost of production. But for us to meet all those things, we have to have volume.
The volumes have to be there. You've put something to my mind. You did mention China. And we've seen a lot of small traders in China gaining access to this market. What is it that they've gotten right that we are yet to crack the code, which again, you've given us a very sound explanation, which is the volumes and being able to bridge the gap, because the issue is not logistics. Logistics can always be figured out if at all you have demand, you have the volumes, and financing is also something else that can be solved once again you're able to look at the demand. Kenya is doing a lot of trading. Every time I go online, I've been able to see SMEs connect with small traders from China who are able to then even supply to whatever MOQ there is of whatever it is that you're looking at. So you're having a lot of products and goods that are coming in from China when we have capacity maybe, or we can create capacity to create some of those things. Where have they gotten it right?
Now, I look at it from both an economic angle, but also a social angle. Chinese community works together. And unfortunately, as Africans, we tend not to work together. It's easy to hunt as a pack than everyone going individually within a market to try and access the opportunities. Now, look at this. If you look at how Chinese nationals attack a market, they'll come into the market. You get a Chinese guy coming to the market with a whole container load of some products, sampling. They've not come to sell. They've come to try out their products in the market. They've come with samples of products. They'll walk into each and every stall on the ground, asking each and every shop that they meet, this is my brand, this is my product, this is what it does. This is the price. If you were to give me an order, I'm able to do this and this at this particular volume. These people come on the ground. I'll challenge you, Fellaris, if you were to go to DRC today, I'm quite sure the flight you're going to use to go to DRC might have more Chinese people than actually Africans. They aggressively attack a market. And once they go into that particular market, what are they doing? They are collecting data, market intelligence. And they're not collecting market intelligence that we are waiting for some global organization development partner to just do some research and say, we have opportunities in DRC of X. No.
For them, it's quick, swift action.
They are on the ground talking to the real off-takers of products and presenting their products for consideration of purchase. Now, once they do that, they now understand what you want. So once they start shipping in, they're shipping in what you want, not what they want.
It's not based on assumption.
Not based on assumptions. And the moment they start shipping to your particular market, they've already captivated you into a particular space. Correct. Now, what are the things that they do? They engage some of these off-takers in the market on contract manufacturing. Because they know their prowessness is on manufacturing. So they don't want to care what the brand it will call. If you're going to call the pen Felix Chege, or you're going to call it, they don't really care about that. The only thing they care about is the pen itself. They've manufactured, they've sold it to you. So they come and will tell you, please, I can create your own brand. If you can remember how China came into this particular market, they came with an angle of contract manufacturing. How many people had their own brands within the Kenyan market and they didn't own a single factory in this market?
Oh, enough of them.
Quite a lot. But what are they doing? Make a call to China, tell them, manufacture this pair of shoe, call it this particular name. Chinese guy will tell you, okay, for me to do that for you, please give me an order of minimum X, because it has to make commercial sense to me.
Correct.
Now, once you place that order, you have your own brand. Now you take care of the hassle of marketing, of export, branding, and promotion, whatever you want to do with the marketing cost, ideally, but they have actually sold. Thirdly, there's an aspect of scale. For us to cut down the cost of production, we have to think of production at a scale. Yes, the cost of production in Africa is high, but electricity only will not solve the problem. We need to look at the volume. We don't need 1,000 small factories. I believe we need 100 mega factories. Because through the mega factories, we're even able to negotiate for cheaper rates in the raw materials that we're actually producing ourselves. The reason why they'll be able to come and mop up the raw materials in Africa is because they have the capacity.
Correct.
But once the capacity is there for them to absorb the raw materials, it's because of the volume that they have in terms of production. So if we can really come up with factories that are able to absorb the scale, we have a lot of raw materials as a continent. But really, we will just have to continue selling them out there because the capacity of production here is decentralized. Because if we really want to create the impact we need to think about scale. And that's only that will be able to make us competitive within the region. It might be difficult to tell a country that is exporting raw material to stop exporting if there's no one to value add. Who's going to feed the people who are extracting the raw material themselves? Because you see, it's easy to say that stop exporting raw materials, but then take them where?
What are we supposed to do with them?
We need to create a demand for our raw materials inside the continent. And to create that demand, we need to be willing to invest in the market. Now, investing in the market, there's a difference between a physical infrastructure of a market and the market. You see, let me break it down to you. We build markets.
Correct.
But we don't create markets. You see, once we build a physical infrastructure of the market, is people to come and put their products there and wait for people who are passing by to come and buy.
Correct.
But then how do we create markets for our raw materials? Is being able to support the aggregation, consolidation, and value addition. Because the farmer knows that if I plant my potatoes in Nyandarua, my potatoes will live in Nyandarua, I'll take them to X aggregator or X manufacturer. He buys them off from me. That is a market we need to offer our people or our producers of our raw material. Now, unfortunately, sometimes we give our Africans the headache of production of raw material, value addition in the small quantities, then branding, packaging, and doing all that stuff, but they never meet the volume.
Correct.
And that's a real challenge that is there. Scale is the last part of what we need to be able to sort out as a continent, to be able to target these particular markets that we are channeling our efforts towards.
I like where this is leading, because then one of the recurring themes that keeps coming up is that policy frameworks mean little if businesses can't access capital. And I want us to look at how critical it is to solve the trade finance gap for the free trade area to succeed, and what innovative approaches are emerging. I know we did speak of the likes of the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, but before we get into that, how critical is it that we solve this trade financing gap?
Okay. I might not be a scholar in this particular space of finance, but I normally have my own thoughts. I believe that the challenge is trade assurance. The reason why finance comes to bridge that gap is because there is assurance that is lacking for the transaction to completely work. Now look at this. If today you walk into a supermarket chain, you pay in cash. Because see, the more the bulk is broken, at the tail end on a consumer perspectives, they pay cash upfront for the products, right? So it means that the reason financing is coming on board is that it is the gap between the producer and before the cash is actually collected from downstream, because the person who is actually going to pay for the product, that money is what is required to sort out the mess up there.
Top. So money has to move down here for it to get to the top.
Yes. So the financing comes in because we need to be patient before the goods are produced, get to the market, collect the money, and then work backwards.
Goodness.
Okay? Now, the conversation is this. Now, the way to finance trade might, in Africa, we might require to come up with an assurance mechanism. Which I believe that if I am comfortable that you're going to pay me, even after 10 or 20 days, and I am sure you will pay me, so I can tell the person who I am supposed to pay that wait for 11 days,
and you'll receive
because I'll be paid after 10 days. And then he tells the other guy,
give me another extra 10 days.
Yes.
So compounding, it becomes almost like
maybe 30 or 60
30
days.
or 90.
Or 90. But from source to destination.
Correct.
Now, we will need to reinvent the way we address the trade finance issues. And these will come in through things like factoring, invoice factoring that will require to be. No, invoice factoring is whereby you have an institution that is willing to buy off the receivables that you have, the invoices that you've supplied and you have to get paid. They are willing to buy those invoices and provide upfront liquidity as they are patient enough to wait to get paid by the person who owes you that money.
Similar to what banks do with LPUs.
Yes. But you see, it still goes back to the conversation started earlier. Demand and supply.
And supply. It comes down to that.
We need to force the financial sector. Force is maybe a relatively harsh word, but we need to bring a business case for them to reinvent the financial modeling. But it still has to be based for the demand of financing, but structured demand for the financing. But it all has to be based on the commodities that are required, that are in demand, and the supply that is available, and is them to try and bridge this particular gap.
Yeah.
So at Real Sources, there's something we're working on the financing piece. We are currently working on a platform that is tokenizing the local purchase orders and the invoices to have you buy a share of an LPO through a crowdfunding ecosystem. So ideally, if today I want to supply, I have an order or an LPO from maybe national government, say an LPO from national government to supply, say, rice. And I don't have the resources. And the payment is guaranteed from government in one or another. So what I can do is that I can take that LPO, lodge it into a platform we are working on. Then that particular platform will tokenize that particular LPO. Have quote unquote what you say like shares.
Okay. So you're able to crowdfund.
Then we crowdfund.
Okay.
But the guarantee mechanisms have to be there. So we might not want to go back to our banks to require liquidity. So me and you can actually buy a piece of that particular transaction. And we can all crowdfund to enable the supply of the product to happen. But we get compensated and we get value for the money that we injected in form of either interest or profit share of what would have been realized from that particular purchase.
So almost like buying a bond.
Yes. But now that on trade finance.
Who'd have thought we'd get to this point? I think it's a very innovative concept if you ask me, given that you have people who really would not have the muscle to get into this 100%, because then finances are a thing, it's these no guarantees, the factors are many to look at. So I find this to be a very timely solution, and also would be very involving of almost everybody would have input into this. But on a larger scale, in terms of what the AfCFTA has launched under the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System to reduce reliance on the dollar. I want us to look at that. Do you see this as a real game changer for inter-Africa trade, or are there still limitations?
Actually, it's a game changer. In the sense that, we might say we want one currency, but the currency may take a bit of time before it actually materializes. But first, what our Exim Bank is doing with the Pan-African Payment System is try to make it easy to first use our own local currencies as we trade.
So the individual currencies per country?
Per country. Because what is happening is that rather than having to go the dollar way, what PAPS does is that it collects the different currencies. And because PAPS is supported by our Exim Bank. So if you're trading in Kenya and buying something from Ghana, you are going to pay through PAPS with your Kenya shilling. But then the guy in Ghana is going to withdraw the Ghana cedis. Now, how that will happen is because there is someone who is in Ghana who is also buying something from Kenya. So they'll allow him to pay with the Ghana cedis, collect that Ghana cedis, settle the trader who requires to get paid by the Kenyan person here. But because it is backed by a liquid bank, they can sort out their issues later with the local banks, because the same banks are funded by our Exim Bank. So they can settle the matter later, but the transaction has been completed as they now continue building the liquidity flows to counter-settle the bank on the other side. You see, that will first make it easy for the flow to happen as we try and sort out the single currency matter. Because that is just creating, I'd call it more of a switch that makes it easy and cheap. Because at the moment, what is happening is that you transfer your Kenya shilling, it is converted to USD.
To dollar.
From USD, it goes down to. And we've seen there sometimes you lose even 25% of the value of the transaction.
Because of the fluctuations. And,
So if we can first sort out that particular problem before governments sit down together or presidents and decide now we have one beautiful currency, before we get there, let's first see what can work now. And that is what the PAPS is trying to achieve.
It's such a real game changer. So has this started as yet?
Yes, it already started. We have banks like KCB Bank that are already on the PAPS network in Kenya. They have actually about 80 banks or so across the region. UBA Bank is already doing the same thing. And it's actually making it quite cheap to transact on a Pan-African perspective compared to going all the way the dollar way.
Wow.
But you see, at the same time, I go back to my conversation. As much as you have the PAPS, we need to build up transactions to support the PAPS. Because at the end of the day, PAPS is an investment also that has been made. But for value for money, for the builders of the PAPS themselves, we also have to build transactions, or we need to create demand for that PAPS by making sure that we have transactions that need settlement from Kenya to Ghana or from Nigeria to Lesotho and everywhere. We need to support this system by consistently wanting to trade among each other and providing tangible and actual transactions.
Hence why AfCFTA has to be a thing. It's the acronym sometimes becomes too much of a mouthful, so we reduce it to AfCFTA. Now, looking at logistics and infrastructure being the other thing that really has affected the implementation of AfCFTA, when you look at things like oil and energy, which have, scare off investment. But even beyond regulation, logistics and infrastructure remain major bottlenecks within the continent. Now, from your experience, where are the biggest choke points and how can tech come in to solve that?
Now, from an infrastructure perspective, you have to look at subdividing it or categorizing it in terms of corridors. Once you categorize conversations on corridor basis, for example, the Mombasa all the way to Goma, Bunia, Bukavu corridor, there is already a lot of traction of products moving within that particular region. And so the infrastructure that is required to be able to move goods, yes, you may say roads, you may talk about a rail that might, I don't know how possible it is to, or how fast it can happen. But at the same time, other than that kind of infrastructure, trade or global trade is generally controlled from the seas. You see, a ship is one of the cheapest mode of transport. Now, for us to be able to attack the entire continental space, we have to use these, call it a bucket. Because actually it's only a bucket with a motor and something to rotate,
I like that description.
We have to use this bucket to be able to move around the entire continent because we have so many ports across that can be used as our distribution and consolidation centers. But look at this. How many countries within the continent own shipping lines? Very few.
I'd want to look into that. I'm actually very curious at this point. Do we have any shipping lines owned by African countries?
Yes. Ethiopia is one. They have a shipping line. And they are a landlocked country.
Interesting.
But I know for us to be able to get our supplies and get our products out,
we need ownership of this thing.
We need ownership of this thing. And being able to really address the challenge of logistics from a shipping perspective, I'd say it would be a big game changer. Now, still goes back to the same challenge. Do we have enough demand for cargo to put in these particular vessels so that even if today we are telling the government to invest in a whole ship, then what happens? Do we have cargo to take it out? But if we can have proper projections of cargo, we can say, okay, we are risking to buy it one today, but we have projections that in the next 5 years, we are going to have enough cargo to be able to go around. So for me, I believe infrastructure, yes, it's a challenge. But I think it's a solvable challenge. It's not the main actual challenge.
It's a very small part
of
what we need to do.
And actually, I'll surprise you. Last week, we just rolled out the Africa Trade Gateway in Kenya. And what we got, we just had, we just put up their questionnaires. We had about 570 exporters in one room. And we did a rollout of just questionnaires. Exactly what challenges do you think or you feel are the main challenges you're having that are making you not increase your exports? We actually thought that financing will be high, logistics will be high. We actually got shocked that the main challenge that they said was custom documentation and certifications. Not even financing, not even logistics is the main challenge. So basically, that comes in at a different angle of the capacity that we need to build to support all these other chains that are coming up.
Correct.
So I believe infrastructure, yes, is a challenge, but it's a solvable challenge if we have demand enough to assure Fellaris to buy a ship, put it in Mombasa, to take cargo all the way to Kinshasa, because she is sure that you're going to have enough cargo to go all the way downward. And these challenges are not going to be solved by any other person.
Yeah.
We will have to look internally, invest our own money to buy those vessels, not waiting for Musk and Kinanani to build their own vessels.
Waiting for the saviors. I mean, it's been the African narrative, and unfortunately, that's what we're having to deal with now. But on top of all of these big challenges that we've put out, infrastructure, supply, demand, financing, I want us to look at a very important component, which is trust, transparency, credibility in terms of, the people we are trading with. Amongst ourselves, there's just a lack of that. We are always looking at each other a bit suspiciously. Would rather believe and trust the person who's coming all the way from the outside, thinking they have our best interests at heart. So how then do we cut across those? I mean, I'll give a very good example. Tanzania and Kenya. There's been a lot that happens within the tensions that we have as neighbors that also affects traders and trade across, cross-border. How then do we cut across this? How do we build systems that have buy-in from all the countries within the continent, that we're able to say, this person is not looking to swindle me. If anything, this benefits them as much as it benefits me?
I'd say business and trade, there's a common saying that business is war.
Yeah.
And it is war. Because someone has to gain, someone has to lose sometimes. It may not be a loss exactly, but has to derive value from it. And see, different countries have different preferences. Today, let me tell you, if we were to say we will not consume maize from Tanzania, it's a big blow, because they rely on Kenya as one of their biggest markets. If we say that we will not take maize from Uganda, it's a big blow for the region.
Correct.
So it's a negotiation kind of pact. It is, I give something and receive something on the other hand. But sometimes I feel we as Africans are drawn into conversations that really have no value, because if we were to focus on what do we want to derive out of the conversation, Kenya comes and says, we have these product lines that we are targeting to export to your particular market. What do you want to bring to our particular market? So it serves beneficial value to both parties. But now, let's take the conversation back to maybe the initial question that you had in terms of why we are not taking advantage of some of these opportunities. Now, from a colonial perspective, unfortunately, we are yet, or some of our leaders and some of the people up there, we are yet to heal from, I'd call it a post-colonial trauma.
Correct.
We are still at that belief that we have to wait for someone with a different skin to come and do something so that it looks the part. And at the same time, we were also taught that if someone does something and does not work out, we end up punishing. We were brought up with a punishment mentality.
Yeah.
But we were not brought up with an aspect of that if you try doing something and it does not work out, it doesn't mean that that is failure. You have learned how not to get to the mess again.
Correct.
And this brings me a conversation to why you don't have multiple inventions or multiple institutions owned by fellow Africans. It's because we don't believe in the capacity of what we have. And the small people who have the capacity and they believe in themselves. They're the first people who look like the black, I don't want to use the black sheep, but I use the outcast of the society because they are not conforming to the norms. You know, I always say the innovations that we are seeking as Africans will not come from outside.
No.
Because the solutions that will come from outside will not be solutions to our problems. It is someone who has seen an opportunity to sort out their problem with something that looks like a solution to you.
Correct.
And you see, it beats the logic to, yes, we will talk about AfCFTA market. But right now, we are busy talking about AGOA. Really?
That's
you have 1.3 billion market.
Yeah.
We are not focusing on that one, but we're focusing on something that is out there. So that means the logic.
Yeah.
Who really is pushing for that particular market?
Big question marks there. You know, we even trying to look at what has really held us back is the whole politicization of these conversations, which I'm happy you've brought in a different angle to this, which is the private sector being a key driver in terms of implementing AfCFTA within the continent, looking at matters, industrialization, integration, stable policies that Africa does need to make sure that AfCFTA is implemented successfully. How then can we look at this as a broader, because then when we politicize issues, there's a very short-term approach to it. Then because then it only survives based on the political cycle, correct? Uganda is now going into elections. Kenya is swiftly coming into election period, which is a sentiment that the business community is always complaining about. Tanzania is about to get into elections. How then do we shift the needle that AfCFTA can be implemented continent-wide away from politics, and it's now the policy makers and the private sectors that are actually driving it?
You know, at no given point can trade matters be led by politicians. And that's the biggest mistake that we as traders make. You know, can you imagine, you know, you're walking into a bridge and you have a blind man holding your hand and showing you the way.
Yeah.
And you think you will not fall into the pit. Ideally, business people need to be the forefront to lead policy conversations. They are the ones who should be saying, we are on the ground. We are the traders. These are our challenges. Then addressing policy, but backed by traders who are having issues on the table. But you see, traders and business people have sat at the back, still complaining, but the guys who are making decisions
is a politician.
Yeah. And I don't blame them for even making the decisions they make because they have no data. They have no experience in that particular space. So the least they'll do is do whatever at that particular point feels like the best decision.
Yeah.
I believe that trade matters should be deliberated, handled by actual business people with the experience, with the knowledge, not from a boardroom conversation, but someone who can actually ship or who has shipped and knows the challenges that they're undergoing. Then let them sit on a table and say, what was your experience? And what do you think we should do better? Those are the people or those are the voices which we need to amplify.
Yeah.
And once you amplify that voice, the integration becomes easy because we talk the same language.
Correct.
Because once you go to a meeting and you address a fellow trader, we understand their pains together. We were both at the border. We both got stuck with our trucks. We both had, an issue with the road network because we tried. But the pain of being there and the person representing at the boardroom, they are two different points.
There's a very big disconnect.
There's a very big disconnect because the person who is on the ground or who's feeling that pinch of losing spares on a truck, being stuck somewhere at the border there because of the poor road network, or being stopped at the border because of some certain certification and having to undergo a whole, say having goods spoiled at the border because of lack of proper paperwork, or some taxes just being introduced by the virtue of someone felt that they should be introduced. But if you don't get the real people who felt that pain to make the policy change, then we'll still be stuck in the same conversation.
We'll be stuck like we are stuck right now, given that, we're seeing, again, very big, if you look at who's pushing the AGOA conversation, it's your politicians, it's your governments. And on this other side, after the people advocating for it is your private sector. And then how do we I don't want to say marry the two, because then there's a risk, there's a danger in it, and the danger is in the implementation that we are now seeing, that there's a lot of roadblocks or assumed roadblocks. So we need to be able to see how to, I don't want to say eliminate, because at the very start of this discussion, you did say biggest person to do business with is government. So there's no way we are taking them off the table. So how then do we make this partnership work?
I think it's being able to change the language. Not addressing it from a political perspective, but being able to address it from a value perspective. I think also as private sector, we have to be able to come out clean and say, this is a value that we are going to be offering the government if we were to take up this route. You see, one of the challenges I've noticed when you walk into a government office as a business person, you are seen as you're selfish.
Yeah.
You look like your main job is making profits.
Yeah.
You don't value people.
You're an enemy.
You are an enemy of the state.
Yes.
But there needs to be a different touch to the equation. And other than us as business people thinking only about the profits that come in with business, we also need to have a long-term view to, yes, we can make 1,000 shillings today, but let's make 200 and make it for the next 10 years.
Correct.
Rather than having to take everything for now for also our own selfish gains. Because we have to look at how can we make this sustainable over time. Because also government on the other side will tell you, we are making money via the custom taxes that are being paid by the simple importers. So we also need to survive. So this cannot happen overnight. It will require us to gradually tweak things as we go.
Yeah.
So we need to also be proactive in our campaigns and exercises, because as much as we want to reduce our reliance on the imports that are coming in, we also have to work as hard as we can to be able to support the other pillar of manufacturing and production. Not always complaining, not always looking at the glass half empty, but looking at the glass half full.
It's half full.
And trying to, with time, trying to balance off the trade or trying to increase our exports as we lower our imports. It may not happen overnight, but private sector and government will have to come in together. We will all have to agree that we are both not right.
Yeah.
Or we say we are both right. But how do we move forward to the next step?
But at some point we have to come together.
We always have to come together.
It's the biggest gap that we have right now, I would tell you that. So private sector, government, marriage made in heaven, depending on how you look at it, but that has great potential in terms of what we can agree. And it's a 70-30 rule. We'll not agree on everything, but it's just how we are able to look at the bigger picture of what it is we are trying to get out of this. And in this conversation here is how do we make sure that AfCFTA is implemented? Here in the 254, which Real Sources Africa is at the forefront of really enabling trade for SMEs and MSMEs here in Kenya and across the continent, but also what role does government then come in to play? As we wind up, the World Bank projects that AfCFTA could lift 30 million people out of poverty and raise incomes for about 68 million and more. Now, that's the scale of opportunity that we're looking at. When you look ahead, 10 years from now, what's your vision of how AfCFTA will reshape African economies, and what role will platforms like Real Sources Africa play in that transformation? So
I like the statistics that comes from our people out there. Sometimes I wonder, do we have our own statistics in the first place?
We have a big data problem within the continent.
Yes. So sometimes I feel we first need to rework our own numbers. But anyway, the opportunity is there. Well, we can start by saying this. One, government is one of the largest consumer in any economy. My take towards inter-Africa trade, yes, we will throw in the ball onto the private sector. But I feel government, other than the policy work, has a very big role to play on the integration. And I'll tell you why. Health government is the biggest consumer in any economy. If today the government of Kenya was to say that 80% or 70%, maybe we start at 50% of our consumption internally as government will be sourced within the continent, and give a basic requirement of saying that the AfCFTA certificate of origin will be one of the mandatory requirements to prove that the product has been sourced within the African market.
Correct.
I am not quite sure about the numbers, but I'm sure out of the government budget, there's a big budget of that even starts with consumables. We will start with basic consumables. And every country adopted that simple policy work. I think your inter-Africa trade conversion will be at 50% less than a year.
Wow. So it's just policy and enforcing it.
Because look at this. If really we are saying that we want this thing to work, if really we are saying we want it to work, who are the biggest consumers? It is governments themselves.
Correct.
They make the biggest procurement sprints. So if they say that we want to work and source from our fellow counterparts and have this policy work in saying that we are willing to source from our neighbors, and for any of the trader who is supplying to government, you need to provide this certificate of origin to prove that you have sourced the product from Africa. Those are the practical channels to make this thing work. Then the entire private sector will rally behind. So I still believe government has a lot of, they have to put in the skin in the game.
Correct.
Other than the policy work. Because if policy work really was the main challenge, I also ask another question. China has almost 80%, or if not more than that, of the African market. Other than the normal bilaterals that they signed, is there any China AfCFTA that they have implemented? I don't think there is any.
None.
So basically, it means if they are aggressively taking over our market without the policy work being fully aligned for their exclusivity, it means I don't think the glass is half empty.
It's actually half full.
It's half full. So it's us reorganizing our mindsets towards how we approach this. But we have to approach it from a very practical perspective of we want trade to work. Whatever needs to be done to make it work has to be done. Secondly, and finally, we have to be willing to try. We don't have monopoly of knowledge. We don't know everything within the space. But for the little and young innovators who are trying to come up, let's give them a chance to try.
Correct.
These innovators are the guys who are going to change the continent.
Correct.
Jack Ma, talk about Elon Musk, talk about Mark Zuckerberg. I sometimes ask myself a very basic question. If they were Africans, let me leave it at a particular point. Would they be where they are today?
Big question.
Do we give our innovators the space, the chance, and the opportunity to grow?
The answer is crickets.
So basically, let's look up to our own young people, our own innovators. Let's give them space, room to try their innovations. Let's handhold them. The moment that happens, then we'll be able to see the change that we all want to see.
Across the continent. I mean, big words of wisdom there, and also just charting a way forward when it comes to AfCFTA implementation, and hopefully in a decade. We don't even have to wait for a decade, but we can look at where we'll be standing 10 years from now. Back then, we used to hear Vision 2030 and we'd be like, oh my God, 2030 is so far away. Here we are now. 2030 is in a few years. So in a decade, we'll be having a very different conversation, hopefully, about what trade looks like here in Africa, and really looking forward to having more of these conversations to see what's the next step now that AGOA has expired. Are we able to shift the focus from talking about something that worked for 25 years and what the next 25 years look like as far as continental trade is concerned? Well, that's all the time that we had today here on the Financial Focused. Now, what is very clear is that AGOA's expiry, while painful in the short term, could be Africa's real turning point. AfCFTA gives us a $3.4 trillion opportunity to trade within ourselves, scale our businesses, and strengthen our economies without waiting for handouts from Washington or Beijing. But success depends on more than treaties. It depends on execution, financing, logistics, standards, and policy consistency. If we get that right, then Africa won't just survive post-AGOA, we'll be thriving.